Day 1063 of the Trump administration, easily the most consequential day of this president's term in office. Tonight's vote in the full House of Representatives makes Donald Trump just the third American president to be impeached. The very moment House members were casting their votes, Trump was on stage rallying supporters in Battle Creek, Michigan. The New York Times and Washington Post front pages both put it succinctly with headlines that stretch across all columns, reading simply, Trump impeached. Tonight's vote, Article 1, abuse of power, was 230 to 197. Two Democrats, as predicted, voted with the other side. Moments later, Article 2, obstruction of Congress, passed 229 to 198. Three Democrats voted with the Republicans against the second article. Tulsi Gabbard, Democrat of Hawaii, running for president as a Democrat, voted present on both articles. The lone independent in the House, former Republican from Michigan, Justin Amash, joined Democrats voting for impeachment. These two articles will now be sent to the Senate. Trump is expected to face an impeachment trial there sometime in early January. But as we said, there's been a hitch in that just tonight. We'll have more on that specifically coming up. Remember, however, it was a phone call between the U.S. and Ukrainian presidents almost 5 months ago now that put us where we are tonight. Almost 3 months ago, Speaker Pelosi made that decision to formally open an inquiry. Tonight, indeed, she delivered her caucus. Today, clad in black, she opened the more than 8-hour debate on whether the president should be removed from office.
Today, as Speaker of the House, I solemnly and sadly open the debate on the impeachment of the President of the United States. If we do not act now, we would be derelict in our duty. It is tragic that the President's reckless actions make impeachment necessary. He gave us no choice.
You've been wanting to do this ever since the gentleman was elected. Mr. President came forward and did what he saw fit for the American people, but yet they wanted to impeach him.
On December 7th, 1941, a horrific act happened in the United States, and it's one that President Roosevelt said, this is a date that will live in infamy. Today, December the 18th, 2019, is another date that will live in infamy.
What we are doing here today is not only patriotic, it is uniquely American. America is a story of ordinary people confronting abuses of power with the steadfast pursuit of justice.
The impeachment serves two purposes. Number one, stop the investigation by the U.S. Department of Justice and Ukraine into the corruption of Ukraine interference into the U.S. Election in 2016.
I am deeply concerned that any member of the House would spout Russian propaganda on the floor of the House.
I rise today in support of these articles of impeachment. I come to this floor not as a Democrat, not as a Republican, but as an American who cares deeply about the Constitution, the rule of law, and the rights of the people.
Never, in all my years of serving in this great institution that I love, and the people of my district, did I ever expect to encounter such an obvious wrongdoing by a president of the United States.
So you heard how some of the talking points went today, some of them translated from the original Russian. We heard at least one Pearl Harbor reference. One other moment that drew a lot of attention was when one of the Republican House members compared the impeachment of Trump to the trial of Jesus.
When Jesus was falsely accused of treason, Pontius Pilate gave Jesus the opportunity to face his accusers. During that sham trial, Pontius Pilate afforded more rights to Jesus than the Democrats have afforded this president in this process.
That brought this response from author and Jesuit priest Father James Martin, quote, Pilate had Jesus beaten and whipped, thrown into jail overnight, marched through the streets carrying his cross, then nailed to that cross until he died. Comparing the treatment received by the president to what Jesus suffered is absurd. Also, only one of them is sinless. President Trump spent much of his day inside the White House and certainly on his phone, and today's proceedings were clearly on his mind. Just before midnight here last night, he sent this, quote, They want to impeach me. I'm not worried. These people are crazy. The president's social media feed erupted again early this morning with dozens of tweets and retweets, including some in his favorite all caps, quote, "I did nothing wrong," and shouting now, "Atrocious lies by the radical left, do-nothing Democrats. This is an assault on America and an assault on the Republican Party." And we mentioned Trump was on stage tonight at his rally in Battle Creek, Michigan, as he was angry and raw, and included a disgraceful retelling of the death of John Dingell. John Dingell represented Michigan in the House of Representatives from 1955 to 2015, just under 60 years in all. That's a record for Congress. As any president would, Trump approved military honors for Dingell's funeral, who, as a World War II veteran, is buried at Arlington. Trump talked about it in terms of a favor he did for Dingell's widow, now Congresswoman Debbie Dingell, Democrat of Michigan.
There you have this Dingell. You know Dingell from Michigan? You know Dingell? Ever hear of her, Michigan? Debbie Dingell, that's a real beauty. So she calls me up like 8 months ago. Her husband was here a long time. But I didn't give him the B treatment. I didn't give him the C or the D. I could have. Nobody would have, you know. I gave the A+ treatment. Take down the flags. Why are you taking them down? For ex-Congressman Dingell. Oh, okay. Do this, do that, do that. Rotunda, everything. I gave him everything. That's okay. I don't want anything for it. I don't need anything for anything. She calls me up. It's the nicest thing that's ever happened. Thank you so much. John would be so thrilled. He's looking down, he'd be so thrilled. Thank you so much, sir. I said, that's okay, don't worry about it. Maybe he's looking up, I don't know.
As for what comes next, the Washington Post and Politico report some Democrats, including House Majority Leader Steny Hoyer, are considering a proposal to delay sending articles of impeachment over to the other chamber, into the Senate. The Post writes that they see a delay as a way to force Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell to, quote, conduct a trial on more favorable terms for Democrats. And if no agreement is reached, some have argued the trial could be delayed indefinitely, denying Trump an expected acquittal. Tonight, the Speaker was asked when she planned to send the articles to the Senate.
You would wait to send the articles until you understand what the Senate's going to do?
We'll make a decision as a group, as we always have, as we go along. We'll decide what that dynamic is, but we hope that the resolution of that process will be soon in the Senate.
Guarantee that the impeachment articles will be at some point sent to the Senate.
I'm not
guarantee that.
That would have been our intention, but we'll see what happens over there.
Senate Majority Leader McConnell says he'll be meeting with Minority Leader Chuck Schumer to discuss the president's trial before the Senate leaves for the holiday recess. And not long ago, McConnell posted that he'll be speaking on the Senate floor about what he called the, quote, House Democrats' precedent-breaking impeachment of the President of the United States. Meanwhile, some new polls providing a late live window into the opinions on impeachment and this president. New NBC News Wall Street Journal poll finds the nation split on impeachment and removal from office. 48% say they support it, 48% do not. Then there's a new survey from the Military Times. They find Trump's standing among those in the armed forces has declined since he took office. His military approval rating now stands at 42%, down from 46% in 2016.
Here's what just happened, and I want you to understand the full weight of this moment because it has never happened before in the history of this republic. At 5:45 in the evening, the Senate gavel came down 68 to 32. 10 Republicans, including Collins, Murkowski, and in the moment that broke the dam open, Josh Hawley, crossed the aisle. The 2/3 threshold that every analyst and every constitutional scholar and every political commentator had insisted was impossible to reach was cleared. And Donald Trump was declared unfit to serve effective immediately. In one parliamentary action, the entire architecture of American political power rearranged itself. Let me take you through exactly how we got here, because the path to this moment is as important as the moment itself. This did not happen suddenly. It happened the way all historic breaks happen, slowly at first and then all at once, with pressure building from multiple directions simultaneously until the dam could no longer hold. The Epstein survivors organized a media campaign that saturated every news cycle for weeks before this vote. Their faces were on every screen. Their voices were on every channel. Their stories were being told in every publication with a moral clarity that made it impossible to look away. They held press conferences on Capitol Hill, standing beside oversized portraits of victims who never got to tell their own stories. They sat for primetime interviews with the most respected journalists in the country. And the cumulative effect of that testimony was devastating, because it transformed an abstract scandal into something viscerally human and undeniably real. You cannot spin a survivor looking into a camera and describing what happened to her. You cannot fundraise off of it. You cannot turn it into a persecution narrative that your base will rally around. It simply sits there in the public consciousness and does its work. Then came the courtroom witness that everyone had been waiting for. The one who was inside the operation and knew where everything was buried. Under the pressure of cross-examination and the weight of potential perjury charges, the witness finally broke. The connection was made explicit under sworn testimony delivered under penalty of law. The transcript circulated immediately. Screenshots spread faster than any spin operation could contain them. The legal wall that Trump's team had spent years constructing had a hole blown through it that no amount of messaging could patch. And then Pam Bondi walked. The Attorney General, who had been installed specifically to serve as Trump's ultimate legal protector, looked at the evidence that had been assembled, read the witness transcripts, examined the documents, consulted with her own advisors about her own potential exposure, and reached the conclusion that staying loyal to this president meant risking her own law license, her own reputation, and potentially her own freedom. Her resignation landed like a signal flare. If the person whose entire job was to protect Trump legally had decided he was indefensible, what did that say about the situation for everyone else in the cabinet? The answer came quickly. 9 cabinet secretaries concluded that the president was no longer capable of executing his duties, his behavior too erratic, and his legal exposure too consuming for him to focus on governing. They signed the declaration. The vice president concurred. The 25th Amendment mechanism was in motion. The contempt warrant from Judge Sullivan added another layer of pressure that accelerated everything. Trump had been defying court orders and treating the judicial branch with the same contempt he had shown every other institution that tried to hold him accountable. But Sullivan was not backing down. The possibility of federal marshals showing up to actually enforce the warrant became suddenly real. Trump could actually be taken into custody. The psychological impact of that threat produced exactly the kind of public unraveling that made it impossible for his defenders to keep arguing he was fit to lead. The social media posts at all hours, the increasingly unhinged rants about fake victims and deep state conspiracies and betrayal. Every outburst became another piece of evidence that the pressure was getting to him in ways a president cannot afford to show. This is the convergence that changed the political calculus for Republican senators. It stopped being about loyalty the moment survivor testimony started dominating every news cycle. It became about survival. The calls flooding into Senate offices were not from the base. They were from suburban women who have been the backbone of Republican electoral success in competitive districts, calling and writing and making clear they would not support anyone who defended this president. Independent voters who might have given the party the benefit of the doubt on economic policy were saying the moral line had been crossed and there was no going back. The internal polling data senators were seeing in their own surveys was catastrophic. Hit the like button, subscribe, and ring the bell because we are covering every development as history unfolds in real time. See you in the next one. Stay safe.